Hello and welcome to the Environmental Design mini lecture. I will be going over 3 things to consider for this lab. So first off, the world. You can see that I have these 3 symbols underneath the frame. I am using them to remind me of what I want to put into my setting. I want there to be strongly circular shape language, I want it to be underwater, and I want there to be a bit of technology thrown into the mix. You can see that I'm immediately tackling the first point by using a circular brush to create these round rock shapes, as well as having all the elements within the piece, such as the coral, the sea highlight, or this doorway, also be circular. I am trying to create a sense of depth by having the path in the foreground be much darker than the buildings in the back, which are blending into the rest of the ocean. Said buildings also have windows and wires on them, so that I am incorporating technology, which is the third point I am trying to tackle. If you are actually making a game with your environment, it would be better if you knew everything that went into it. If you know the story, the people that can go into it, you can incorporate elements of that into the background so that it feels more cohesive in the end. If you know what kind of game you are making, and actually have an example of the gameplay, you can also have sneak peeks of that within the environment. This player character I am drawing, I am having it be extremely contrasted with the background through color. It has this extremely bright neon yellow-greenish color, so that no matter what, the player knows exactly where they are. Other UI elements, such as the health bar or these little pick-upable items, are also in a similar bright color. That brings me to my second point, emphasis. Things that are important to the story or to the player should be easily discernible from the rest of your environment. I accomplished this in the previous frame by using brighter, bolder colors, but you can do it through a variety of ways. You can use line art, you can use density of detail, or you can use color like I already did. Through these methods, you want to create a hierarchy that the player can quickly understand. They want to know where their character is, how much health do they have, or any other UI element. Can they interact with things in your environment? If your scene has something like an extremely lore central element, you want to make sure that they can see it and that it feels significant. In this particular example, I have these trees that are extremely spiky, but they all kind of blend into each other. The player character, on the other hand, has more circular elements. While the rest of the environment is extremely pointy and triangular, the crow's eye is round as well as the rest of their head. Now, looking at this aurora, that brings me back to the first point, actually, knowing the world. Because this idea is roughly like a rhythm game, I actually can use an environmental element to create part of the gameplay. I have these notes floating in the sky as a way of showing where the beat map is. While this may not apply in every single game you play or create, this is an example of something that you can do if given the opportunity. In cases where you don't already know what your gameplay will look like though, it's still fine to have an environment. When designing a setting or gameplay, it's important to keep the opposite one in mind. This way, everything will feel like it fits together. Now, for this last frame, I would like to go a little bit more into my third point, shape. A lot of people consider shape to be more something that fits in character design, but remember that it applies to settings as well. You want to know the context. You want to know if this environment is supposed to be hostile, is it supposed to be familiar and comforting, and then you can use shapes and colors to reinforce whatever mood you are trying to create. Always remember that a spherical character will look like it belongs in a spherical world. Think about games like Minecraft or Paper Mario, where there is a sense of cohesion due to the shapes and textures used. Here I have this extremely square, blocky environment. I have trees in the background, I have rocks in the foreground. Everything from these extremely far elements to the close-up mushrooms are made of the same shapes. When I create the player character and have it be made of similar blocks, it will just look like it belongs. Now, you can break this on purpose if your story is trying to tell something different. If you're trying to make something where, let's say, the character is a time traveler, they're out of their place, they can actually feel like they don't fit there if you use opposing shape or color language. As long as you do everything on purpose, it is fine. Now, to conclude, 1. Understand the context and story of your world. 2. Make sure important elements are emphasized. And 3. Create cohesion through similar shapes and colors.